A very good morning to you. How you doing? And welcome back to Life and Style Monday edition. That is Inspiration Monday. And on Everyday Woman today, we're having a very informative session today. I have three amazing women with me today, and this being the month of March, that means this is the end of month. So we need to learn and understand. One thing I have gotten or learned from the little that I know about endo is that it's okay. It's okay to talk about your period. It's okay. If it's painful, it's okay. Just talk about it. And we're here to just push that agenda, because one of the things, and I remember we had this conversation just before the show began, is that the only time I found out, the first time rather, I found out there was anything in the world called endometriosis was when Jambi Koikai came out. And I think it's a sad and a good thing, because we should have known about it earlier. I should have known about it earlier, but that is when. And it only happened because some things are not going very, very well. With me is three amazing ladies wearing yellow here and there because it's the color of endo. This is that month, so we're celebrating that. And karibuni sana. So we're going to start our introductions from the furthest end, coming this way. Doris, and that is your camera.
Thank you very much for having us on the show. My name is Doris Murimi. I'm founder Endo Sisters East Africa.
Absolutely.
And my name is Maureen Jenga, a counselor psychologist.
Great.
My name is Esther Mbogwa Kimemia, and I run Yellow Endo Flower.
Wow. Okay. Let's just talk about the yellow before we assume everybody gets it. I know I just mentioned it, but you know, from experts of endo, and we're celebrating that this month, celebrating or creating awareness around endo. Maybe you can just mention why yellow, and is it something, did we do this last year? Were we aware of it like the year before, that year, the other one? So maybe someone, anyone. Okay, Doris.
Yellow actually has always been the color of endometriosis. And I think why yellow? Endometriosis is associated with such gloom. It's such a dark disease. It's so painful. There's so much sadness surrounding endometriosis, and because of a lot of women bleeding a lot, many of them tend to wear dark colors, you know, colors that won't stain even when they wear their clothes and all that. So for us, yellow, we found the yellow existing, but we think yellow is a vibrant color. It's a color that represents hope, that brings out the sunshine not just around you, but also from your soul, you know, so that you know, that happiness that reminds us that the hope is not really found within us, but there's even greater hope even out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are radiating this love, this hope, this sunshine to you all who are watching at home, and I love that. I love that. We normally, what you do is probably succumb to what you said. I know I'm bleeding a bit too much, so I want to wear, even during your period, you just want to wear not a white, like something black, something navy blue, something brown, so that you protect yourself. But then this is, you know, just coming out of like, it's not that bad. There's information about it out there. We can do something about it. Now, talking about this country, just in this particular month, and what we are doing as a country to create this information for people like me, who only knew about it because Njambi decided, you know what, I'm done keeping quiet. What is endometriosis? What is it? For people just looking and thinking, Nongetia, Kigujarati, what language is that? So what is endo?
Endometriosis is when the cells, the endometrial lining that is supposed to be found in the uterus, is then found elsewhere outside the uterus. For some reason, it moves, and it can go as far as the ovaries, it can go to the pelvic region, it can go to the intestines. In Jabi's case, for example,
Yeah.
it went all the way to the lungs. There are some cases where it's even in the brain and all that. It's not understood why that happens. I think there are many theories out there, but it's an abnormal state. And those, what happens is that when a woman goes through her menses every month, wherever that endometrial lining, those tissues are, wherever they have attached those lesions or implants, they will start bleeding, and you know, and then they start causing havoc in the areas that they are. And so, for example, if it's the blood, it can't come out because there was one designated place it was supposed to come out
Yeah.
from. So then it causes a lot of you know, a lot of adhesions. It causes wounds inside what we call the implants, the lesions, and all that. And that, of course, results in a lot of pain and uncomfortableness for the woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
From a clinical psychologist point of view, there's so much that goes on. Even before you know that this is endometriosis that I'm going through, there's a lot of why do I have this pain? And I think I was telling Esther earlier, there's so many things that are myths around painful periods. Like, pata watoto itaisha, lala hivi, ama kukula hii, fanya hii. So there's so many things around that even psychologically you're like, you know what, maybe I just need to just get a baby and maybe this pain will go away. But looking at it from your point of view, what are some of the things that we go through, we should go through to sort of like help us during this journey of recovery?
You see, the pain that women go through, every individual does it differently.
Yeah.
And so the pain that she's going through is not the pain that I'm going through. So it is very difficult to pinpoint what exactly can I do.
Yeah.
The only thing is, once you are aware that you're actually suffering from the endometriosis, there's a coping mechanism that you will go through that will just help you in the journey.
Okay.
And that's what we try as much as to do. You come in individually, find out when you found out about it, how did you take it,
okay,
you know, and where are you at right now, so that now from that stage you start walking with you. And more so, as you walk, we also enlighten and bring to our awareness that there's also the support group that can really help you to go through this journey. Because look, there's no way you can be able to tell somebody when you're having your period, these are the pains you're going to have, because you are an individual. So we try to be like, once you have those intense pain, first to visit a gynecologist. From there, do the tests. And once you get the results, then we take the next step of psychoeducating the person and working with them.
Great. Just before we get to the symptoms of, you know, sort of like knowing it could be, this is more than your normal cramps. I'll just go back to Njambi, and she's opened up her life, so I think it's okay because she's talked about it quite openly, and probably that's the only case most of us know. Probably you've never met a person who is going or having endo, but she talked about misdiagnosis a lot. She was given wrong diagnosis, left, right, center. Is it because the system here was not ready or aware, or is it because there's no quite a straightforward way to knowing that this is it? It's not just your normal cramps, this is not just chest pains or whatever. So is there, what could have been the problem with that? And is it something that probably anyone who's going to hospital to find that they should be keen to not be misdiagnosed?
I'd say we live in a society that has normalized pain. I think that's the first thing. So even before you get to the hospital, you've probably delayed because you've been told this is normal.
Yeah.
But we can't really blame our parents because they didn't know better. And at the time, there was no awareness about endometriosis. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is you're told it's all in your head. So you doubt yourself. So most times when you actually get to hospital, you're beside yourself with pain.
Yeah.
You can't even function anymore.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is endometriosis is such a unique condition, and it mimics other conditions sometimes because of how it affects other organs. So most times we will rule out the most simple. Like for me, I was told that I had chronic cystitis, basically prone to infection in my bladder. And when the problem still persisted, that's when they said maybe it could be something else. So I was sent to another specialist.
Maybe Doris, do you want to tell us about how yours manifested or how you found out about it?
Yes, yes. And maybe just before that, just
Yes.
to add a little bit about even the Jabi case,
Okay.
I think also endometriosis is a very complicated condition. It is so difficult to diagnose because, as we said, it's only through laparoscopic surgery that you can be able to fully know what somebody has. And in the case of Jabi, she has one of the most rare forms. I think even it's documented in the world, one of the most rare. You know, I think it's called thoracic endometriosis. So that's already, you see, one of the issues. And then at that particular time, our gynecologists, our doctors were not trained to look out for endometriosis.
Yeah.
I'm happy to report though that today, if any woman walks into the clinic presenting pelvic, discomfort and all that, the first thing they think about is endometriosis and less ruled out. So that's some advancements that we've
That
made,
is. That's a
yes,
beautiful
as
thing.
compared to how it was before. Like during my time, now I can get into my story.
Yes.
Like during my time, when I started having the symptoms, having bad period pains, and I knew that there was something wrong with me. And I was a teenager, I was 13 years old, and I told my mom about it, and she was a forward-looking, thinking woman. She actually took me to 4 different gynecologists. It wasn't normal at that time to take a young girl to see a
Gyna.
gynecologist. Yes.
Yes.
So I went to 4 different gynecologists, and all of them said, well, she doesn't have, is it the PID? Is it the PID? Pelvic inflammatory disease. Yeah, no fibroids or anything. Oh, she's fine. I mean, when she has a baby, these pains will go.
They always say that.
That's exactly what they said. So that's probably a time, if they had been keen, if they had known better, perhaps they'd have been able to realize that there was something wrong with me, that was probably a candidate for endometriosis. Yeah, so that's how my journey started. I went on to have endometriosis, and now I don't know it's endometriosis. I just painful periods, very painful. And one of the distinguishing things was even having pain during ovulation, having pain right before, having a lot of pain during the periods.
That's like
And
the whole month.
it's the whole, for me,
It's the whole month of
Yes.
pain.
yes,
My goodness.
yes.
Okay.
For me, I always say it's the whole month, because there's no time when you don't feel like you're having the pain. And it was to go on for so many years until that was like in my teens, all the way progressing with now having like the first 2 days I can't work and all that. But I always say my saving grace was that I was in the NGO world, and we had a lot of flexi time. So that's how I kind of worked around it. But one day, one morning when I woke up at just after my 43rd birthday, I started bleeding, and the bleeding did not stop. I bled for 30 days straight. And that is when it was to continue for another 5 years before we got actually another, that was 2012, no, maybe another 2 years, when then I got a diagnosis. That's when my doctor was able to find out that this was endometriosis.
Wait. 2 years.
Yes. Constantly bleeding, 30 days, 28 days. I think the shortest time I recall bleeding was maybe 14 days.
Oh my God.
And for me, that was, of course, anemia sets in,
Yes, it does.
chronic fatigue because of that loss. Emotionally, of course, you're always down, and there's also the sense of self-loathing, because I think no woman likes having periods. You can't wait for them to be over. So imagine for that long you have self-loathing. It's a really psychological and horrible time as you're going through that. And just feeling that even interacting with your friends, you're always scared, that you'll stain your clothes, you don't really want to go out much, and that kind of thing. So you also become a social recluse. You don't want to hang out with everybody else, and that kind of thing. Yeah. And when people talk to you, it's always about your pain. So people kind of get bored. She's so self-absorbed. She only talks about herself and her pain.
God.
Yeah.
We're human.
Yeah.
So what happened after all of that?
Yeah, so after that, my doctor tried, we focused a lot on trying to contain the bleeding, because at that time endometriosis, we didn't know about endometriosis. But and he really helped in terms of painkillers and that kind of thing, taking medication. But I think one of the saving graces again was that I had what you call the endometrioma, the endometriosis that presents in the ovaries. So during one of the routine scans, we picked it up, and the minute my doctor saw that, he said, this is endometriosis, because this is a classic symptom. He immediately now put me on hormonal medicine, and that was the Zoladex, which, by the way, took me on a roller coaster, because it was the worst side effects. And I think the feeling down, we have to use the word depression very carefully, as she will tell you, but feeling very low, up a really low, and actually there were no highs with Zoladex. It was just a horrible season. And then I had my first laparoscopy, and of course by the time he was going, he already suspected. He was right. When he went in, he was able to determine I was at stage 4. And he tried to do, you know, what they call ablation, just, you know, removing, burning, you know, and all that. After about 9 months, I relapsed again. The bleeding came back again. The periods, you know, when you take the Zoladex, it's a form of putting you into menopause, early menopause. Okay. So I was in menopause for about like 9 months. Then suddenly the periods come back, and I'm thinking this time they'll come back normally, and my life will have come back to normal. I bled for 24 days straight, and this time the pain was worse than even how it used to be.
Oh goodness.
And I remember being so depressed and just, well, okay, so sad, so sad.
I was like,
so down.
Here we go.
Let me not use that word. I have to be careful. But being so overwhelmed, I think that's the word. So overwhelmed, you know. And a couple of months later, I think by the time, that was November, by the time March was coming around, 6 months later now, I had been bleeding for so long that my doctor now said really an option was to have a hysterectomy, actually have my uterus removed, because he said it was impossible to contain the bleeding, even with all the medications. By this time I was passing out. I couldn't even drive or do things. I couldn't work in a full-time job. I was now doing consultancy, because once it hit, I'd just pass out because of the intensity of the pain. So it had become so bad. It was a living nightmare, you know. And so I didn't go through the hysterectomy, and I'll tell you, to be honest, it was because I didn't feel strong enough to have gone through the operation, you know. And that's I think it's an open and a wonderful thing to share at this moment, because it wasn't so much, yes, there was the sense of loss, that as a woman, that, you know, I'd be losing my uterus and all that. But at that time I was like, you know, I've had enough because of the pain, to be honest. But to be honest, the reason why I did not have that operation at that time was because mentally I didn't think I was strong enough to have gone through it mentally. Mentally, honestly, that is why I didn't do the operation. But with time, my doctor was able to get a second alternative, and he got a drug that was available in the market, Visan, which had you know, some reactions to some women. But for me, when I took it, you know, God is faithful. You go through hell, but there's what is it? There's beauty for ashes, I think. And for me, the Visan worked very well, and I was even able to work. You know, I went back. I was able to wear colors, you know, beautiful colored dresses. Well, I didn't quite go to the yellows and the whites, but I did wear some, you know, some brighter colors than what I was used to wearing, and I had a lot more energy. My cycle was now anywhere between 10 to 14 days, which for me was like heaven, you know, and life was fine until I relapsed yet again. And this time and at this particular time I found out that it was fibroids, because sometimes they come associated with something else.
They do.
Yeah. So it was fibroids, and then my next operation had to be an what do they call it, as a myectomy. Yeah, because it had to be open like a C-section. Yeah, and so that's what I had to remove, the fibroids, and also to remove the ovarian cyst that I also had, again as a result of the endometriosis. But after that, God has been faithful. I went into menopause, and life has never been so good. Yes.
Beautiful. That's just, it's quite a roller coaster. And you think she's fine, then, oh my God, no, she's not. Then she's fine, no, she's not. But you know what, we thank God for all of that. But, you know, maybe Maureen, you can tell us, when you're going through that whole, you get a person or patient who's going through all of that, and I don't know why she's so careful not to use the word depression. Maybe you can enlighten us on that. But what are some of those coping mechanisms, depending on, like, I don't know if you dealt with Doris or probably Esther, but what are some of those coping mechanisms? Because it seems impossible. It looks like there's no going or coming out of this one. It's like, okay, fine, cool.
You know, there are stages in once you're given the diagnosis.
Yeah.
The first time when you're given, it's like, you know, when you're going through loss and grief, you know, you first deny.
Yeah.
Because there's this big word you've been given, you've not been explained what it does or does not do. And then as you come out, you're told there's no cure, you know, for it. And maybe the cure that you're being told to go through could be what will cost you so much, and yet you can't afford. You know, the surgeries and the medication that you have to take also costs a lot of money. So depending on where you are at, that's where we begin. Because first you have to go through to accept that, yes, I've been told I have the endometriosis. Then what next? How will I live? How will I cope with all this? You know, going through. Because remember, growing up, we all have dreams. We all have expectations. So you can imagine if you come in and you're told, as a result of this, you cannot give birth. As a result of this, it also affects your relationships.
Is it like a fact you can't? Or
It depends
it
on the
depends
extent,
stage?
yes.
Okay.
There are those who will, but it will take a little bit longer.
Okay.
And those who may never. So it all depends on an individual. So your relationships have been affected, your work also, because the downtime that you do. So with all that, it all depends on an individual.
Why is she being so careful with the word depression? Is it something that doesn't happen, or shouldn't we agree to the fact that I could actually, you know, get into depression because of all this downtime that I'm going through?
Yes, there's depression, but you see, there are those stressors that come with it.
Okay.
You see, when you throw depression, you know, depression, I was telling her, it will go away beyond, because there are different types of the depression, the maniac and everything.
Yes.
As she's talking, there is that the hormonal medicine that you're taking place. So that one actually alters with your moods.
Okay.
So if we talk about the mood swings, maybe now we are comfortable because you don't want to go to the depression. There are those who really get, because now if you start isolating yourself and what you're telling yourself, your thinking, and then your behavior and your reaction, that is what will drive you to the end of depression. And yet that is not where they really got to. Absolutely. Because for you now to be able to cope, it means you have to see a psychiatrist to give you medication to stabilize you.
Okay.
So we can start from there.
Right.
And that's why when I asked her, I said, were you given medication? We never got there.
Now I get it.
So
that's why she did not get to that point.
Yes.
So she doesn't want to throw that word loosely around, because really it wasn't that. Oh, okay. So there's a clinical way to look at it. So we throw around the word depression. It's not even funny. So we have a book here by Esther Mbugwa-Kimem, yeah? It's called Bloom, Practical Guide for Your Period Journey. If you can tell us more about this. It's quite interesting, by the way, guys.
So I was diagnosed with endometriosis as a teenager when I was 19. And then subsequently I was put on medically induced menopause at 19. So for me, this is what I wish I knew as a teenager about periods. So it covers everything regarding the color of periods. I didn't even know such things mattered. You know, I was always, yes, it does. It tells you a period is a summary of your hormonal health.
Okay.
Yes. But I was socialized to think it was disgusting. I couldn't wait for it to end.
Yeah.
So I barely looked at the pad at the time.
Yeah.
It was always a nuisance, if I could put it that way. So this is what I wish I knew. This is periods broken down so that everyone can be their own ambassador. I was very upset, you know, growing up thinking someone should have fought for me, but no one knew me the way I did. Okay. And I think I also chose to overlook knowing something. So it breaks down the color, also vaginal discharge, because that's another thing that I could tell you. It also takes you through hormone levels. I didn't know these things until I was in my 20s. And I wish I had known, because I've been able to say something is off. You know, sometimes you're the first person who can sound the alarm.
It's true.
Yes. And then now the second part of the book gives you a space where you can log in your details. So how long your period has lasted, how painful it has been, if you've had to miss school or work, if you've taken any medication, because we have a lot of people self-medicating.
Yeah.
And then we are dealing with the
Let's
side
just agree
effects.
to that earlier.
Yes. Yeah, then we're dealing with the side effects later and other symptoms you experience. Okay. I think I hadn't realized that the constipation I experienced was linked to my menstrual cycle. If I knew that at 15, I'd probably have gotten a diagnosis earlier. So it just helps girls understand their bodies. And then from that, they are the CEOs of their own health, as a friend would put it. Yeah.
This is beautiful. Where can people get this book?
So you'd have to order it from me. I'll give you my number. Yes, okay. We're not yet in bookstores. Yes.
All right. Yes. This is very interesting. So what happens afterwards when I realize that something is wrong with me after logging in my details and writing them down, how much pain I'm going through, the number of days I have my period going on in a month? What happens now? Is there a direction to who I should see?
you should see a gynecologist. The good thing is that it allows you to chart at the end. So you're able to see correlation between length of period and pain as well, and pain medication that you've seen. So you'll be able to see the patterns. So even when you go to your doctor, you can tell him this is how it has been.
Yeah, it's like doing your job-ish, but then sometimes it's even difficult because when you go to hospital and they ask you, so when was your last period? You're like, ah, so this comes in handy because you're able to just show them it's been like this, so that it's easier even for them to help you with that. You mentioned something about the pain. Sometimes they have triggers, which if you're alert enough, you're able to realize that maybe this is the thing that is actually causing this and this and this and this. Is this also found in here?
Yes.
Okay.
But stress is also a good one, if I could just put it out there.
Good Lord.
Stress is a good one. Stress has made me go almost 40 days without seeing my period. Yeah, so I think our bodies are balanced.
Yeah.
It's like a balance of different things. So it's up to us to figure out what is throwing it out of balance.
Okay, great. So something interesting is happening. And this is courtesy of the Endo Sisters East Africa. And Doris, this is your docket. This is you. The yellow nails movement. And if you see her nails, please just show off those nails. They look so good. Are this your nails? This just because they look alike, don't they?
Look alike. I wish no, those are not mine.
All right, maybe you can tell us more about this. What's happening? What's happening?
For the month of March, because March is Endometriosis Awareness Month. Now, Endo Sisters has been in existence for the last 5 years, and we thought, honestly, we are, trying to get women to our website and to our Facebook page and all that to give out the information. It seems like we really haven't done a good job, because, as you were saying, the first time people heard about it, it was through Jambi. I mean, many of them did not know. And I like randomly going to salons and asking people whether they've heard of endometriosis. So it was clear that people didn't know about it. So we said to ourselves, where would we be able to reach most women? Why don't we go to them? And we thought, why not something fun? We love beautiful things as women.
Yeah.
Why not come up with, because it's about yellow, rather than having just the yellow ribbon, have the yellow nails, the yellow nails identifier for endometriosis, so that the whole campaign is working in the sense that we have some certain participating salons, about 8 of them across the country. We have one in Kisumu, 2 in Nakuru, we have one in Mombasa, and others in Nairobi. And the idea is, in these participating salons, is when somebody walks in and they ask about the nail polish colors, then they're told, actually, the yellow nail polish is on offer. Yeah. And they ask, well, why yellow and not blue or red?
Yeah.
And then they're given this information. Yeah.
So I like that. I like that. Start the yellow nails movement. Start the conversation. Paint your nails yellow. Learn about endometriosis. Tell us about it. Be part of the yellow nails movement. So how we get to know about these different salons that are actually doing this is by going to the website. By going to the website, but social media pages. Yes, social media. By going to the website, I mean you can see them there. I can mention a few, but the important thing is that it's not only just going to the salons. No. That we were using the salons just to get the process started. Okay. And I can mention a few. Ashley's is one of them, Urban Hair and Mitch Salons, Gianna, and and others as well. But we are encouraging women, even in your own house, paint your nails yellow, please. Upload on Instagram and hashtag yellow nails movement, because we want it to go out there. We want people to to have awareness about it, and we are saying that this is a conversation starter. We're starting the conversation. Yeah, because anybody, I'm sure many people do not put on yellow on a day-to-day basis. No. Yeah, it's not a common color for nails. So it is. Everybody will ask you, why yellow? Why yellow? And it looks really good. Thank you. It looks like Naona Estep here shining in your yellow. Okay, this is very, very interesting. So if you're at home, just grab that nail polish. Go get yellow nail polish, not just for you, for your friends, and have this conversation going as we come to the end of this conversation. Probably final pointers or maybe centers where women can go to have this check. This is something that even if I'm experiencing normal cramps, even if, just to get this information, more information about this, where can women go? Or even men, for their wives and their brothers and their sisters.
Okay, for one, the website, but even aside from our own website, gynecologists.
Yeah.
Just go and see any gynecologist. You know, all gynecologists know about endometriosis.
Oh,
Yeah. So when you go to see a gynecologist, I think many people restrict themselves to general practitioners. I mean,
Yeah.
doctors, and they have nothing against them. There are many who would understand the condition, but if it's been ongoing for some time, I think it's good to see a specialist.
True.
That you will get a lot of help there. And then again, there are support organizations that will where you can get information from. She said Yellow Endo Flower. There's
Yeah.
Endo Sisters East Africa. There's Foundation, Endometriosis Foundation of Kenya. So there are others out there as well to
Absolutely.
get information.
Final words, Maureen?
I think once you've been diagnosed with it, it's not the end of life.
No.
There's so much hope.
Yeah.
And you don't have to bury yourself or just, isolate yourself. Seek help. The first stage, go seek help from a counselor who will also help with the coping, to cope with it and walk with you with the journey. Also, the support group, from home, from even friends, is very important. Be out there with them. Let them know this is what I'm going through, because that also will lessen the journey as per, you're not feeling like
Alone.
it's a burden and you're alone.
Yeah.
And again, when you join those support groups that they're talking about,
Yeah.
you'll meet others who have gone through similar experiences. So you'll be able to understand and learn some of the things they have done to help them walk this journey.
Absolutely.
So if you go out there, don't just hide. Come out, speak out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Esther, and if people want to join the support group as well, final words with that information.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Yellow Endo Flower. We're based in Mombasa. And I'd say fight for yourself, believe in yourself, and then accept the process and adjust accordingly. Too many dreams are broken because of endometriosis, but there is life with endometriosis and after endometriosis.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
It's been quite informative. I have learned a lot, and I hope you guys have learned a lot too. Thank you, thank you. This has been Endo Month, and we've been talking about endometriosis, how to know what's going on with you, get a book, track your period, and it's okay to talk about periods. It is okay. So go out there and talk about it, and see a gyna if you need to. Do not feel like, oh, I'm alone. There's a psychologist, clinical psychologist to talk to. There are people around you can talk to. There are support groups that can help you walk this journey. So it's been amazing. It's been The Everyday Woman with me, Mwikali. We're taking a very short commercial break, but you can talk to us on social media, all your comments, opinions, questions on our social media page. That's KTN Life and Style on Facebook, KTN Life_Style on Twitter and Instagram, and SMS us 22840 and paint your nails yellow. Just because you can. Start a conversation. I will do that. Trust me. I will get them yellow. Just the dress today. But we'll be right back after this short commercial break with Catherine Wangi on Books and Bombs.